Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
No, my name is Mike Honcho. I am coming to you live from the East Coast. That's the coast with the most, from the co-host with the most, here on the Rundown 2A Views, Conservative News. Great to be here with you, Craig.
On Hump Day.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
It's hump day.
Hump day!
It's hump day.
Hump day!
Yes, it is Hump Day. This is our attempt to begin the weekend. That's right. Wednesday, we do the best we can to try and start the weekend. Well, how is that? How is the beginning of the weekend going for you thus far, Mike?
So far, so good. Right now, we're according to schedule. We're just a couple minutes past 5, and I am taking advantage of the weekend.
Unfortunately, it has been an epic failure so far for me. That my weekend has not begun today, and it likely won't start. I'm working. I'm hoping that it'll start tomorrow, but the wife is now home, and so I got a bunch of honeydews. The list has grown exponentially in just the less than 24 hours she has returned. But hey, it is what it is.
You made that trip to the airport. You know.
I did make that trip to the airport.
Yes.
Well, hey, you gotta take the good with the bad, but
Yep, that's true. Yep, and the bad with the worst.
there you go. It is what it is. Hey, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Do us a favor, please make sure like, share, subscribe, and encourage your friends to do the same. However you are partaking of the program, whether you are listening to us via our podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, or you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, and by the way, if you're watching us on either one of those, make sure you hit that notification button. That way you get notified as soon as these programs go live. You can participate in the live chat as the program is taking place.
There you go. Do it like that.
All right, so let's get into the news because this first story was one that really kind of caught my eye. And it kind of solidifies something that we've known about law enforcement lately. Now, you all know that murders are up. Crime in general is up all throughout the country. We know that America is, in fact, under threat by violent, quote unquote, extremists. What we did not know was that, according to our own law enforcement, in particular the Federal Bureau of Investigations, you and I, because we tend to be conservatives, could actually be included amongst those terrorists. Now, this is a tweet that was sent out, and this is from the Federal Bureau of Investigation Domestic Terrorism Symbols Guide. Now, those of you who are gun owners, those of you who are Americans, might recognize some of these symbols because I'm willing to bet that if I looked at the stickers on your gun case, or if I looked at your Facebook or your Twitter feed, you would probably see some of these symbols located there, somewhere around you, which basically means that according to the FBI, you or I might be an extremist.
Oh, I'm sorry. What's that? I might be an extremist. No. Don't bother with me. Just practicing my trigger squeeze while I had a moment. Craig, if you look at these symbols, you would expect to see stuff like, MS-13 or perhaps the Fourth Reich or something like that on there. Maybe, I don't know, motorcycle gangs or something. But this is everyday stuff that you find in your history books as well, which is what strikes me there. These are what things what made this country a country. These are what things that make people. What do they call themselves? The believers of freedom, the followers of the Constitution. These are not, whack job. There's no Branch Davidians in there. There's nothing like that. These symbols are modern, everyday symbols used to symbolize your love of country.
Right. I mean, take for example, I'll use this one as an example. The one down here, the Gadsden flag. Now, Mike, you might recognize that Gadsden flag. You might have seen that Gadsden flag somewhere before. Just saying.
Yes.
And that is considered an example of extremism. Here's another one. You see the little the Spartan helmet that's
Yep.
up there. You guys have probably seen that Spartan helmet somewhere, which basically might make you a terrorist.
That's it. I might make you a terrorist. Yep, exactly right.
I'm just saying. I mean, I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at this stuff, and I'm saying to myself now, I am not a terrorist, right? Oh wait, no, wait. Here's an even better one. Let me find. See, it's even to a point where, for example, they consider Revolutionary War imagery and the Betsy Ross flag, right? Now, mind you, all of these things down here are all historical reference or historical reference imagery. But so in other words, to look to commentate on, to believe in some of the founding, some of the history, to believe in the history of the United States, to recall and recount the history of the United States, makes you a domestic terrorist.
Bring that back up again, Craig. So, and give me the zoom out a little bit more, like you had on the moment before it, the one before it,
Okay,
where I could see a little bit more of it. So you got to zoom out a little more.
Hold on, it takes me
Just
just a
zoom
second
out
to
a little
make that
bit.
change.
A little bit. Bring it back some. You'll find Motor Scooter once you back that picture up.
Back that picture.
Bring
up.
just back a little bit. There you go. A little bit.
There you
There we go. That's too much. Come in some. No, I'm just kidding. Look at your symbols on there, right? Your top left, Revolutionary War flag. Look at Come and Take It on the right, where you see the cannon, Revolutionary War symbols. Look at your like you said, your Gadsden flag, Revolutionary War symbols. The Liberty Tree flag, Revolutionary War symbols. The Betsy Ross flag, Revolutionary War. Look at the Revolutionary War imagery. I'll ask you to Google right now your National Guard in your state, whether it be your Air National Guard or your Army National Guard, and you're going to see the imagery of the Minuteman. Okay, that's
right.
That's what the National Guard is. All right, these are common symbols still in use today. I point back to Craig when I bring it up, and I don't know if we could bring it up quickly, to look at the U.S. Army flag. The U.S. Army flag is our flag. It's one of our nation's oldest flags. It's got the logo on it. It's got the eagle, and right at the bottom of it, it has a date. There's a date at the bottom of the U.S. Army flag, and that date is 1775. Craig, what was the official birth date start of this nation? When did we write the breakup letter that was heard around the world?
1776.
1776. So that means in 1775, where it was the birthday of our army, June 14th, for well over a year, we were tyrants and revolutionaries and criminals. Yet we celebrated every day with our 500,000 man strong U.S. Army, 1775. It's
wow.
right there.
Wait. Do you see the snake on there?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. You see the helmet on there. You see the sword on there. You see the spear on there. You see the cannon on there. You see the body armor on there.
Well, and once again, it just goes to show you. And once again, this is our own government that's basically saying that if you, first of all, understand that understanding, talking about it, hearkening back to it is less about, okay, this is where we want to go, than understanding how we got here, right?
Yeah.
We got here because we were dealing with a tyrannical government who is doing a lot of the stuff that they're starting to do now. Now, the difference between then and now is we have the ability for a nonviolent revolution every election cycle. So it's time for us to stand up and fight that battle via the election cycle. But it's also important for us to understand the things that they are doing and how it equates to a tyrannical government. Because that's the only way you're going to overthrow them is first by recognizing that they are tyrants. Oh, but calling him a tyrant makes me a domestic terrorist.
You are a domestic terrorist, right? Because you voted in the election. You therefore must want change to your government. If there's something wrong with your government and you want to change it, you must be a terrorist.
Well,
that's their definition.
But
if you go to the polls right now, you're a terrorist.
Groups like Black Lives Matter and Antifa, who have as a part of their foundation to overthrow American systems, to undo our government, right? To undo our educational system, to undo and tear down the American family, the church, all American institutions, to undo the very fabric of what makes America America. Those groups are not considered domestic terrorists. By the way, those are also the groups that staged hundreds of violent riots throughout the country in 2020, destroying government property, attacking law enforcement, attacking government buildings, and killing people. But they're not considered domestic terrorists.
Yeah, Craig, it's all hypocritical. We know that. We know this is one-sided partisan politics running these agencies. That's what makes them, impossible to follow. We're having a conversation about other federal agencies in here later in the program, and none of them can be taken seriously. That's mine right there. That's not on there, Craig. So I guess I'm okay.
No,
because mine says no step on snake. No step on snake. So. Yeah, how do we take these? How do you take a federal agency seriously? How do you take a law enforcement agency seriously when you know that they're being driven by partisan politics? That nothing they say can be held. All of a sudden, 3 years ago, we're patriots, and now today we're tired, or we are extremists. We're revolutionaries, or whatever the hell they're calling us, and yet nothing's changed. Continue to vote the same way they did before. Continue to pay the same taxes. Right now, maybe when that stops, maybe when we're throwing your tea in the harbor, then you got a problem then. But
right. Well, and this is what happens when you have the politicization of law enforcement. And by the way, we're not just seeing it in these things, but we've seen it as they've gone after. You look at the number of people who supported Donald Trump, who have been brought up, who've been charged, and who've been tried and are now sentenced to jail time because they're political enemies of the Democratic Party. And none of that happened under Donald Trump, even though they said it would. None of that happened, and in fact, people were still wanted to see Hillary get locked up, and because I still believe she committed a crime in deleting those emails and correspondence in order to hide what went on in Benghazi. I still believe she did that, but there was no real investigation into it.
Well, there was a real investigation, but the administration decided the way to heal this nation is not to put the previous administration in jail. The same way that, like we talked about this last week, I think, the same way Abe Lincoln reconstructed the reconstruction of this country by taking all of the former CSA officials and telling them, just go home and collect your checks. You're not going to jail, but you can never hold office again. That was the deal they made to heal the country.
Yeah. And but the problem is you have people who aren't interested in healing the country. People on the
I'm with you now. Listen, after they've had this chance now, they've had a couple of chances now, and they continue to do this. They continue to turn back around and be hypocrites and backstab. I think Senate bill, House bill number 1, when it's whoever the Republican is that wins the election in 2 years, that should be throat punch prison day for Democrats. I mean, for those that held office, for those that you could turn to the tape and go, let's watch the lie, and then you can watch the lie on the video screen in jail. There's just not even any question. Well, I wasn't sworn in. I'm a member of Congress and I wasn't sworn in, so I didn't have to tell the truth. You're still going to jail. Get in the bus.
There you go. Throw them in jail. Lock them up.
Yep.
All right. So moving right along.
I actually don't want to put them in jail. I want to put them in the cages down on the border.
The cages down the border. There you go.
Yep.
All right. So, I will tell you, and this is not something new, but it is amazing the things that Democrats get away with saying about Republicans. Herschel Walker, former Georgia Bulldog, from Georgia, played football in Dallas for a few years. And now all of a sudden, anyway. So he's now back in Georgia. He's running.
That was his fault. That was his problem right there.
He's running for Senate. Hey, look, you know what? Dallas Cowboys they have at least 2 or 3 Super Bowls that they can credit to Herschel Walker, mostly by them trading him to the Minnesota Vikings.
That's it.
And the trades that they got for him. But I mean, the racist stuff the Democrats have said or the people are saying about him, and listen to what this MSNBC commentator had to say about Herschel Walker. Check this out.
Now you ask, why are Republicans backing this man who's so clearly unintelligent, who so clearly doesn't have independent thoughts? But that's actually the reason. Walker's going to do what he's told. And that's what Republicans like. That's what Republicans want from their Negroes, to do what they're told. And Walker presents exactly as a person who lacks independent thoughts, lacks an independent agenda, lacks an independent ability to grasp policies.
So, Mike, in other words, what he's saying is that if you are a black person and do not support the Democratic dogma, which is not based on fact, which is not based on actual information, and which is based on policies that have done more to harm black people than to help black people. And if you think I'm lying, just look at every city that's run by Democrats and look at how black people fare in those communities and tell me that their policies don't hurt. But you are not capable of quote unquote independent thought if you disagree with them.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Right, this guy did everything but say Uncle Tom. Right, you know.
Oh yeah.
Here's the black guy that does what the white guy tells him to do. And it's exactly what you said. He's accusing Herschel
why
Walker.
are Republicans backing this man?
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to play the video again.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He's accusing Herschel Walker of not having independent thought because he's doing he's doing what the Republicans want him to do. Yet here he is, the Democrat, living in almost said it, in the crap holes, right? Low unemployment, everything bad about the African American black communities, except for what Trump did for his 4 years and brought minorities. By the way, did we mention that Trump gave more money to historical black universities than any president ever, including the black one before him? Did we mention any of that? No, we didn't mention that. Did we talk about how the lowest unemployment ever for minorities since tracked in over 50 years? No, we didn't talk about any of that. But because those people had the foresight and the mind to go out and listen to an opposing party, and you know the hook. You remember the hook that Donald Trump used to get the minorities to listen to him?
What
he said, "Hey."
lose?
He said, "Yeah, they've been lying to you 50 years. They've been lying to you 50 years. What do you got to lose? What do you got to lose?" And people did, and they went, "You know what? I am better today under Donald Trump." And that's a Herschel Walker. That's a man right there who, listen, it's a Georgia education, so I don't know how good the education was, but it was a Georgia education. But he's clearly an educated man.
Well,
and he knew enough to leave
him
Dallas.
Of being unintelligent
so
because he speaks with a southern drawl, and just basically because of how he speaks, he considers him to be unintelligent. So he doesn't look at the content of what he says. What Mr. Eli says here is, or Mr. Mistral, what he says is, well,
he looks like
because
a
he's
black
and because he doesn't speak with a northeastern accent, clearly this guy is unintelligent, right? In other words, he is basically racially profiling him, not listening to the content of what he says at all, because he can't refute any of the content of what Herschel Walker has to say.
Yeah, I mean, can this guy be as ignorant as Herschel Walker has a southern accent, so he's dumb? You can't be that ignorant.
Let me ask you this. Now, imagine someone on Fox News saying something like that about any black Democrat running. Tell me that Democrats would not be losing their minds. It'd be all over the Associated Press, over the New York Times. You would not be able to not tune in and find that sort of thing if someone on a news network actually said the sorts of things. And by the way, that's just one of the things. I mean, they've said some pretty darn racist things about Herschel Walker. And the thing is that no Democrats are stepping up and saying anything about it. Like, dude, you want to attack his policies, attack his policies. But to attack his intelligence, to attack his accent because of where he's from and how he talks, now all of a sudden that is legitimate. And you got other black folks who ain't saying nothing. I'm like, where are all those, folks who want to oppose racism and racist rants and microaggressions. This ain't no microaggression. That's a macroaggression right there. And yet they got
It's
nothing.
my belief, my feeling. You tell me, at least over here in the South, and I've been living here a couple of years now. There are still a large population, a large percentage of the African American community that are Trump supporters. However, they've chosen at this point to do like the white Trump supporters did 5-6 years ago, shut their damn mouths. They don't go around talking about it. They don't post stickers. They know they're going to vote for Trump. They don't talk about it with their coworkers. Don't talk about it with their families, because guess what? It's my personal business. I'm going to do what I want. I don't feel like dealing with you idiots. So seeing a lot of that when you finally get to sit down with a group of people that are represented just based on the population of the United States, you still see that it's well over 25%, maybe even up to half, on those minorities now looking at Republican Party and Donald Trump.
And I'm glad you're pointing that out, because this is not just a technique that they use with black people, because they do it with Latinos. On a huge percentage of the Spanish speaking stations. I know in Texas there's a huge radio station. I think it's Texas or Miami, one of the two. There's a huge radio station that was or that Spanish language, I think it was television station, that had a lot of personalities that were conservative. George Soros backed group went and bought them out, and then basically has either gotten rid of, or many of them have quit. The conservatives have quit because they're trying to silence them, because they know that people of color in general are tired of being treated like they're stupid by the Democratic Party. They're tired of being lied to, right? They're tired of, for example, being called Latins, or Latinos are tired of being called Latinx. Less than 3% of Latinos want to be called Latinx. They're offended by it. And yet the academic or the rich liberals continue to try and tell them, well, this is what you should be called because you should want to be called this. They continue to talk down to and treat people of color like it's bad. There was a study just done that said that something like 75% of Latinos believe that America is the greatest country on earth. And yet,
I don't know where the Latinx. We talked. I think we talked about this before. The Latinx thing.
Yeah,
Latinx sounds like that's the cheerleader squad for the Latino football team. It's the stupidest name in the world. We're Latinx. And what does that?
Right.
What does that mean? I know they tried to accomplish everything, but you know what they didn't do? They didn't ask anybody that was Latin or Hispanic.
Right. Well, exactly. So
I forgot that part.
I'm glad to see. I'm glad that they are exposing themselves, and I'm glad we need to continue to make it a point to point out. Look, they think that because they're in this bubble where they get away with saying stuff like this. Once those comments get outside of that bubble, once they're now available to the public, people start to see the Democratic Party for who they are, which are racist, elitist, academics. Who think that they are better than the rest of us.
Very true. Very true. What's this guy's name? The one with the big
Eli,
the white afro.
Mistal. Eli Mistal. He's a commentator on MSNBC.
And he thinks he can go on with that afro and people take him seriously, right?
Well, I'm not against the idea. If brother wants to have an afro, brother can have an afro. I give him credit. At least it's padded down and it's not like all crazy like. But I'm not into afros. I don't wear an afro. But
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with afros. I'm saying the giant white. It looks like a clown afro. It's not. It's white. He pulled it on. It looks ridiculous. Is what it looks like. It looks like a man bun. It just looks like, what are you doing? That's not even looking real. It's just.
On that note. All right.
I'm sorry. It doesn't look like his real hair. It doesn't look like his real hair to me.
No, it does not. Actually, does not look like his real hair. But evidently, he's trying to portray it or put it off as though it is his hair. So we shall see. Moving right along, the mayor of New York has been, there was an event that took place in New York where they were talking about making New York safe. And one of the things that was mentioned at this particular event was that the New York mayor, Eric Adams, who, ran as a law and order type, mayor, is demonstrating that, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing or what the hell he's talking about, wanted to access ATF's gun database to target negligent firearms makers, manufacturers. And ATF, in the very same meeting in front of the public, told him, dude, you have no idea what you are talking about. I mean, now, Mike, the point of this was he wanted to access ATF's gun database and didn't really say exactly which database, but he wanted to use it to be able to track and find out what firearms are being used in crimes so that he can then turn around and sue those manufacturers for being neglectful.
Yeah, here he is, the New York City mayor, Adams, former police captain, ran on the Law and Order ticket, but he's a Democrat, so he's got issues, right, Craig? He
Right.
wants to be tough on crime, but how can he be tough on crime when he's the Democrat let everybody out of jail party, right? So he's taken kind of a harder stance than most people that voted for him realized he was going to take, but he's still, because of his party background, very uneducated on the way a lot of the law enforcement system outside of the city of New York works. I mean, it looks like he may never have worked on a federal task force before, based on the questions he's asking the ATF. It's kind of like he got his knowledge about the ATF from watching a TV show, rather than what actually listening and doing research. He asked them for their database, like you said, but never once specified the database. Because we see on TV, the database says, oh, look, we found this gun. It's registered to Johnny Smith over on 3rd and Main. That's what he wants. He wants that database. Yet the database that the ATF kept talking about was the sales database. And that's maintained by those individuals that sell the firearms, right? And the people that the 5 agencies that he had there, the 5 manufacturers of firearms, those were the highest level of manufactured guns that end up in crimes in New York, and that's why he asked them there. But he wants to use the database to find out what guns were sold. But if you already have the information that those are the guns that are most sold, you have the information. So what database do you need? They spent an hour talking about a database without ever talking about what database they're talking about. Because listen, ATF and the feds got a database for everything. They got a database for what color shoes you wear to work today. But what they want is, and what he's trying to get at, is the federally protected, the copies of the purchase orders of the firearms, of the 4473s. They mentioned it once in there that they're old paper documents and they don't have the ability to digitize them. 1, because of manpower. 2, because the 1986 update to the Crime Control Act, right, or the Gun Control Act, said you cannot make that a database and it cannot be available to the public or to anybody below the federal level.
And Mike, this was a pretty public slapdown because this is what he says. So the article says, it's unfortunate he made that statement before he was educated by me. Special Agent in Charge John DeVito told the crowd at the Protecting New York Summit, sponsored by City and State of New York, on July 21st. Everybody wants to vilify gun manufacturers, DeVito said, adding that one of his biggest jobs is to educate officials, law enforcement partners, and prosecutors exactly what the information means and how they can use it and how they shouldn't utilize it. And I do that on a daily basis. And once again, he recognizes and he points out that people think that this is like a holy grail, but then once again he goes after where they're trying to vilify firearms manufacturers and firearms retailers. But as he said, in particular, the retailers, they're the first line of defense when it comes to protecting or keeping bad people from getting firearms. They are the ones designed to help enforce the law at the stores, right? So, and they are highly regulated. You're an FFL. You know what you have to go through in terms of your paperwork and inspections at both the federal, state, and in some cases local levels. It's one of the most highly regulated industries in this country. And what he's saying is that overwhelmingly they are protecting us from protecting the people from misuse of firearms, not the purveyors of misuse of firearms.
Yeah, and he's got to be careful there. This ATF looks like the New York special agent in charge, New York City special agent in charge, DeVito. He said a lot of things there that were very, I would say, on the right side. Okay, and
Right.
maybe some pro Second Amendment stuff. To where I think if old Steve Dettelbeck there, the new head of the ATF, hears that this guy's going to be out of a job. But he did say some other things, DeVito, that made him sound extremely anti-gun as well, right?
Right.
Where he says in the same sentence, Craig, at one point that we are strongly pro-gun, yet we have a great desire for more strict gun control laws. Like,
Right.
I don't know how to. Maybe you're not paying attention to the people around you, okay? Because you just put the people on the opposite sides of the fence sitting in a boat together, and that's not how it's playing out.
People think you can be pro gun control and pro gun at the same time, and I'm sorry, you can't.
There's no way.
Because in most cases, and I've yet to see a newly introduced gun control law that was not in one way or another a violation or an attempted violation of the right to keep and bear arms. When you start limiting someone, whether it's magazine capacities, features on a firearm, you start telling people, we've already got it so that, quote unquote, supposedly violent criminals and the mentally ill who are violent cannot own or possess firearms. We've already got that. So when you start saying, well, all right, well, if you start adding crimes that are nonviolent crimes, no, that's not pro-gun. I don't know. I just keep going it over and over again. I've yet to see a newly introduced piece of gun control legislation that I would label and look at as pro-gun.
Yeah, and listen, they continue to write laws, right? We see this all the time. New York just did this. California just did this. We write laws we already have. I mean, the extreme example is the law exists. You cannot be in a park with alcohol and a gun, right?
Right.
So you can't be in a park with alcohol and a gun. And then they'll have something go on in the park, and they'll write a new law that says you can't have a gun in a park with alcohol.
Right.
You're like, it's the same thing, dude. You just wrote a law for something that already exists.
Thing.
You just changed the order of it,
Right.
No, well, it's a new law. It's a new law. So
Well, because evidently doing things that are effective are not what they're interested in. They're interested in the press releases and the media appearances and the media basically, fawning over them when they do these things. That's they do it for the media.
one more law, Craig. That's all we need is one more law.
One more law. Well, I'll tell you what, moving right along, one thing that we definitely need is one more Trump candidate, because Mike, things are showing that Trump candidates in yesterday's primaries, because there were primaries that were held in a number of different states, Trump candidates appear to be doing very well, in particular when they're running against other Republicans who are non-Trump candidates. Now, what I found interesting in most of the pieces, Mike, that I read relating to the success of Trump candidates is we're not necessarily just talking about candidates who are supported by Trump, but people who believe that whether or not they believe the election was stolen, people who believe that there were irregularities in the 2020 election, they lumped them in with Trump supporters. People who supported Trump's policies but maybe didn't like his personality, they were lumped in with Trump supporters. So basically what they're saying is real Republicans did well, and those who decided that they wanted to basically hate on Donald Trump and hate on Trump's policies, yeah, they didn't do so well, and they haven't done so well in primaries so far this year.
Craig, if this story, if it said false or what do they call it? Called false irregularities of election. Reports of false or reports of election irregularities. If it said that one more time, I was going to throw up. I mean, everybody started with candidate so and so who also believed the false reports of election irregularities.
Yeah, so that's this leading article. Once again, falsehoods in multiple party primaries, November general election. So, in other words, if you believed that there were problems with the election, which there are plenty of people who believe that there are problems with the election that are not saying that the election was stolen. But if you believe there are any irregularities, that anything that happened shouldn't have happened, you are a Trump supporter and alleging falsehood.
Pull that back up real quick. I just saw what it is. It's they refer to everybody as the. Here we go. The supporting Donald Trump's 2020 election falsehoods. There you go. The election falsehoods. That's all it was. You know, every one of us is out there taking a look at it. Craig, now you're a guy that voted for Obama once, right? Yet
Never voted
you're at
for
the point.
Obama.
You didn't, not the first time. You didn't vote for him
No,
the first time.
I didn't. I never voted for Obama.
Didn't you want
Ever.
hope and change? I thought you
Ever.
wanted hope and change. I thought you wanted hope and change.
Ever, never.
So see, I caught him, folks. He's paying attention today. So you see where they feed this in. It's part of their standard language now. It's part of the 2020 election falsehoods. It's part of the, you know, you're an extremist,
Right.
because you saw 3 people with suitcases loading ballots from underneath a table into a machine and said, "Can I ask a question here about that?" And now,
no.
now you're an extremist.
You are
You're
an extremist who is pushing election falsehoods.
Yeah.
If you believe that, if you question why election officials change the rules of the election without actually passing any legislation, you are a purveyor of lies and falsehoods.
Yeah. The good thing I like about this, Craig, this story, and we talked about this recently also, is they're not just running for willy-nilly any position anywhere. These people are running for positions that will make a difference if an election irregularity ever comes up again. We're talking about secretaries of state, supervisors of elections, governor's office, those kind of things. We're talking about senators. We're not talking about Congress. We're talking about people at the state and local level that can make a difference if this nonsense happens again.
Woo-ha. Yep. That's exactly what's going on.
Yep.
All right. We're coming up against it here. So let's get to our parting shots. This first one, well, it's in honor of, well, we all know exactly how the media is portraying things that are going on in our particular election cycle. And it's kind of funny because as a kid, I remember growing up watching wrestling and recognizing, and I acknowledge that it was totally fake. But there are people who believe that wrestling is real. Just like there are
hold on. Wait a second. Hold on.
Yes.
You're saying wrestling wasn't fake. All right. Wrestling was athletic.
Yes.
It was a sport.
Yes.
It was a choreographed sport. All right. But every time I hear people say wrestling's fake, I'm like,
well, let me
what, you mean like it's a
clarify.
cartoon?
They did all of the, it is one of the most athletic performances that you will ever see. But it was already pre-choreographed, and it's only a sport if you don't know the outcome. If you don't know, or if the participants do not already know the outcome, right? They already planned the outcome before. So yeah, no, it was. And once again, it was phenomenal to watch, and it was very athletic, but it's not real sport. Just like MSNBC and CNN are not.
Here's what I'll
news.
say. I would dispute you that it's not a real sport. I'll say it's not a real competition.
Well, what is sport but competition? I mean, when you while you are participating, if the outcome is already known, then it's not a sport.
Is jogging a sport? Is running a sport?
No. Racing is a
so
sport.
running's not a sport.
Racing
is
not a sport. If you are racing and you are competing in a competition or a race, that's a sport.
Right. So when I'm wrestling and I've got this guy and I'm lifting him over my head and I'm lifting 300 pounds over my head, that's not athletic ability. That's not a sport.
That it's totally athletic ability. That doesn't make it a sport.
That's not a sport though, because I have to win the crowd.
Yeah, no. I'm sorry. You're never going to get me to buy that one. But
all right, let's do it. Go ahead. This is a good one. Go ahead.
So you got a kid here watching. He's watching wrestling on TV, and he's like, you're watching something totally made up and fake. And he's like, yeah, sort of like you watching CNN and MSNBC.
Boom, Mom, in your face. And why does Mom have a 5 o'clock shadow? I want to know that.
Well, see, now there you go, gendering. That could be Dad.
Not with his legs crossed like that. That's not a. I don't care if you're who you are. If you cross your legs
Mike,
like that, you're not a
it's
dude.
a liberal, Mike. It's a liberal.
And did you notice that? You notice the shirt? She's wearing a Cher shirt.
Yeah.
CHER. I don't know where does Cher come. Who's heard of Cher in the past 10 years? How is she on this woman's shirt?
I don't know, but it is what it is. All right, and this next one I am familiar with. Gavin Mussolini,
Is it a sport?
as I like to call him. He has won a new award. He's won the U-Haul 2022 U-Haul Salesman of the Year award because, well, and Mike, you probably know this because we were talking about the very same thing as it's been experienced in the Northeast. When you are in a liberal state and you want to use a U-Haul and you want to go someplace like Texas, like California, it's like it costs you like a couple of grand to rent a U-Haul from California to Texas, but they almost pay you to go from Texas to drive the U-Haul back to California.
A friend of ours, a friend of the Second Amendment community, bought a classic car down here out of southern Georgia. I think it was North Florida, southern Georgia. And he's up in New Jersey, and he wanted to come down and rent a U-Haul trailer up there and just come down and pick it up and take it back up. Right. So he was going to drive his truck with a U-Haul trailer behind it. Right.
Right.
And they wanted to bring a U-Haul down coast into south was like $1,000. So instead of doing that, he booked a ticket, flew in, paid for his ticket, and the U-Haul, he rented the U-Haul van and the U-Haul trailer and drove it from Georgia to New Jersey for $10.
Wow.
Because they need stuff so bad because everybody's leaving the Northeast and
Right.
coming to the South the same way they're leaving California and heading to the Southwest. They need stuff so bad. I'm thinking about I got to go to New York in a couple of weeks. I'm thinking about just renting a U-Haul. I'll get to go for free.
But folks, this is how bad the mass exodus. That's how bad the mass exodus is in California. And what's funny is they think that, well, hey, here's what we'll do. We'll allow you to transition your 12-year-old child from one gender to another here in California, and we'll also allow you to have abortions, 2 years after your child is born. That ought to get people moving back to California.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, good stuff. Morons.
All right, Mike, how about a quick shout out to our sponsors?
Let's say hey to our good friends at Gorilla Machining, Grid Defense, the California Republican Assembly, and of course, USCombatGear.com.
That's right, folks. Check them out. If you go to their websites, if you like what you see, spend some money with them and make sure you tell them that the guys over at the Rundown were the ones that sent you. With that, we're going to call it a day. We thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. We will see you tomorrow on Thirsty Thursday. I'll let you later.
Yum.